Hey guys, what's happening everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of KMRD Radio Stuff. My name is Mike. If you haven't already, or you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and you can also follow me on Twitter at KMRD. So what we're gonna do today, I got an email, and this was actually for Mailbag Monday, but I thought this was such a great topic that I wanted to do a standalone video for it. So the email was questioning the directionality of a vertical antenna. So can we take a vertical antenna and point our counterpoise or our radials in a direction and make it more directional, okay? So I've got two different antennas. I've got the River Coils and I've got the BuddiStick Pro. Both of these are in their stock configuration as you would buy them from their respective manufacturers. The only difference with the River Coils, I'm using the mega tripod as opposed to the standard tripod. Other than that, the whip and the coil are all exactly the same as what you'd get, and I'm also using the 333-foot radials. The BuddiStick Pro only has one raised counterpoise, so we're gonna see what happens when we change the direction, because I've heard two different sides of this story. Some say that if you point the counterpoise wire towards something, you're gonna hear more that way, and you're gonna transmit more that way. Others have said the opposite. So if I wanna work towards you, I would actually point my counterpoise away from you, which I don't know. So there's a heated debate in the amateur radio community about this, and I'm here to solve it. So I'm only gonna do transmit tests. I don't wanna be out here all day playing with Whisper, but I'm gonna do some transmit tests as a control with the River Coils. I have all three 33-foot counterpoise, or excuse me, radial wires going out in kind of a triangle direction. So it's as omnidirectional as it can be. The BuddiStick Pro only uses one raised counterpoise, so I won't be able to check for like omnidirectionality, but I'm gonna take one transmission with the River Coils with all counterpoise spread out. Then I'm gonna take all three counterpoise wires, or excuse me, radials. I'm gonna point them north, I'm gonna do a test. I'm gonna point them east, I'm gonna do a test. I'm gonna point them south, I'm gonna do a test. And I'm gonna point them west and do a test and see what the Whisper reporter picks up in terms of where we're getting out. So, and then I'll do the same thing with the BuddiStick Pro, because they are two different antennas. We've got a ground mounted vertical and we've got a raised vertical with a tuned counterpoise. So hopefully this should put to rest any beef over this topic. I've seen a lot of bar fights on this. You know, pretty much any bar I go to, you see hams bickering it out over, you know, raised counterpoise versus ground mounted versus point it that way to go that direction or point it that way to go that direction. It's like Roadhouse, man. So we're gonna put it to the test. So stick with me. I'm gonna get on the air, I'm gonna do a lot of tests, and then I'll come back with the results. Oh, I almost forgot. To try and keep this as scientific as possible, I'm only gonna have one antenna up at a time. So I'm gonna start with the River Coils. I'm taking down the BuddiStick Pro. I don't want any interaction between the antennas. So we're gonna get rid of that variable too. Well, we've been at this for about 3.5 hours now, just playing Whisper with a couple different antennas, and I gotta tell you, we've got some results. Some of them are going to surprise us, I think. But it was neat doing this experiment. I'm gonna go home, I've got screenshots of everything, and I wanna get on my better computer so I can actually do a good presentation for you, and we'll go over the results. So here, this is the what I call the River Coils 360 with just the counterpoise in three different directions as God intended. And you can see we get what I consider a fairly normal radiating pattern from what I typically see here. Lots of East Coast, a little bit of left coast, a little bit right in the middle, but the majority is kind of right there, just right along the east of the Mississippi. And that's pretty typical. Now, what's interesting, though, let's take a look. And when I changed the direction of the counterpoise wires, I just kind of laid them out in the north direction and the east and south and blah, blah, blah. I didn't fan them out. They're just kind of all laying right next to each other. And I did use a compass, so it was pretty much due north, due east, due south, etc. So now looking at the counterpoise wires pointed north, look what happens. Here we are now. So we can see we actually drop off a little bit of that cluster of kind of what I'll call the east half of the U.S. Get a tiny bit more in the west coast there. You can see here's the 360 again. Here's with the counterpoise pointing north, radials. But we do pick up Canada, so there is some bit of change there. Now let's see what happens if we go east. So again, we're at 360 now. and here's pointed east. So we picked up a little bit in the middle of the country, and I'm gonna keep going back. This is the 360 view. Now this is the radials pointed east. So you can see a little bit of a comparison there. So we do pick up, I won't say more, but different, certainly less in the East Coast, it looks like. It's kind of just shifting a little bit. And a couple more stations out to the West Coast. So now let's take a look at what it looks like. Here's pointed south. Now this was interesting. We picked up a couple stations. One's in Costa Rica. One, it looks like, is in Panama. And then we've got another station up in Canada there. So that's with the radials of the Wolf River Coils pointed south. Again, here's just the typical radiating pattern of the Wolf River Coils for comparison. So little bit of directionality there. Now let's see. Here is looking west. We actually picked up 2 stations in Hawaii. Picked up quite a few more Canada stations, a lot more western stations to begin with. Again, here's the 360 view. Here is radials pointed west. So it's definitely picking up something. So there is something to say for that. So that's the Wolf River Coils. Now let's hop over to the BuddiStick Pro, and here is the counterpoise wire, the raised counterpoise wire pointed north. Okay, so everyone in the East Coast getting a lot of West Coast stations all the way up to Canada. We picked up those same Hawaii stations again, but pretty much just 180 degrees to the north, if you will, we could call that. Still quite omnidirectional, actually. Now, here we are with the counterpoise wire facing east. We picked up Costa Rica. We didn't get that station in Panama. We got Canada a little bit, and let's compare back. The northeast, or the eastern half of the country, not quite as populated as it was with the radial counterpoise wire pointed north. So that was kind of interesting. So here's north, here's east. Now let's point it south. With the counterpoise pointed south, now we get Costa Rica again. We're back getting Hawaii. We're back getting Canada up there. A little bit more stations East Coast, a little bit more stations West Coast. Here's east pointed. So a little bit less stations overall with the counterpoise pointed east. And here's the real interesting thing. Let's point this counterpoise west and look what happened. We got all the way into Europe. We got England. We got, I think that's Sweden and some other country that I can't remember, but whatever country's right next to Sweden and Austria and in that kind of area. Got down to South America. We got a whole bunch on the east part of the country, west part of the country, all the way up to Canada. So this was really shocking to me, and it really kind of looks from these results that, yes, changing the direction of the counterpoise wire or the radial matters to some degree. With the Wolf River Coils and moving the 3 different wires, I don't think it is as obvious or beneficial, if you will. Yeah, you get some bit of directionality, but again, this is whisper. You got to take this with a grain of salt. What is going to happen on SSB or even CW might be a different thing. But really surprising, the counterpoise wire with the BuddiStick Pro being raised. It's technically a completely different kind of antenna, and it definitely had a bit more reaction pointed in the different directions. And what I found odd was that when it was pointed east, it got the least amount of signals, probably because I typically hear less signals to the west. But when it was pointed in every other direction, north, south, and west, we got all over the place. And especially pointed west, we got a lot of signals out east. So in this case, with the raised counterpoise wire, it does look like whatever direction the counterpoise is pointed, it's going to favor the opposite direction. So where conversely with the Wolf River Coils, it did tend to favor, negligible though, the direction that it was pointed. So those are the results. Read them as you will. By all means, this is obviously not a conclusive result. I was out one day on 20 meters for about 3.5 hours doing this test. But these are quantifiable results. We can see the proof is in the pudding what actually happened here. So I thought it was a fun experiment. And I don't know if any of a video like this is out there. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. You can also follow me on Twitter at K8MRD. Drop some comments in. If you've got any actual scientific experience like this, leave a comment and share it with the community, and that way we can keep the discussion going. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you again on another episode of K8MRD Radio Stuff. 73, guys.